Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for the Western Conference finalist, El Paso Locomotive FC. Proud member of the Beautiful Game Network and brought to you by Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. I'm Phil Bakke, and gosh, we got a big one tonight after a big result from Locomotive, and for the occasion, I'm joined by Ostradamus himself, the king of memes, Austin Young. Austin, what's up?
How's it going, Phil? Make sure you say it for the ones in the back-to-back Western Conference.
Back-to-back, baby. Yep. No, it is like, I don't know. It's kind of just hitting me like later, as we get further away from the game, what a big deal this actually is, given the way that this season has gone and the craziness around it. So some feat, and we'll definitely talk a lot about that for sure. We're also joined by the commander of the Mikka militia herself, Mikka Burrell. Mikka, what's going on?
Nothing much. Like Christian or like Austin said, back to back. It's crazy. Obviously, I don't think we were expecting back to back heart attacks with going PKs twice in a row, but I'm happy to just get to where we are any way we could.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into the drama surrounding this one. Oh my God. My cardiologist on speed dial as we've been saying, but
as per you.
Yeah. And we also have with us Christian Canales, the king of questions. Christian, what's up?
What's up, guys? Not much. Just excited about the results on Saturday, and we've got some traveling in our future, at least one road game, which is more than we've had in, I guess we did go to Colorado a couple weeks ago, but before that, we haven't had very many road games this year, thankfully. So I had a question about travel for you guys. I have two questions, actually, and it's a would you rather. Just want to get to know your guys' perspective a little bit, but would you rather travel the world for a year on like a shoestring budget, or would you rather stay in one country? Again, you can choose the countries you go to for the first part. Second part, you can stay in one country of your choice, but you can only be in that country, but you're like living in luxury.
Old Trafford, here I come for a whole season.
So you would pick the UK and just stay there and live it up.
I really would.
Damn. Because I was going to say, like, man, you're really going to go to Manchester. Like, you can go anywhere. No, I get that, though. Because having visited the UK earlier this year, it was actually awesome. And especially the cities kind of, like, outside of London, the amount of, like, character and culture that they have out there is actually pretty legit. So I totally get that answer.
Well, like, to be honest as well, like, honestly, there's only two countries I really want to visit, which is England and Australia. So I might as well knock one of them out for a full year, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Fair.
Mikka, what's your thoughts on this? Because I feel like you would drive yourself crazy.
My answer is informed by my bouginess, to be honest. I would pick one country and just live it up. I can't do like hostels and shit like that. Like I just can't. So going around the world would be awesome, but I wouldn't want to do it on a shoestring budget because I like to be comfortable, and dirty things scare me. So even though those are sometimes the best experiences, and I have had some of those experiences in my past travels, but I would probably pick a country. The UK is a good shout. I've been all over Europe, but I've never actually made it across the English Channel to the UK. So that would be fun. But yeah, maybe I'd go with that one. Or I would love to go to Brazil. I've never been, and I would love to. There's a little more involved with going to Brazil. I think, we actually need a visa to go there since we require one of them. They decided to require one of us. So,
yeah.
So it's not like in Europe where you can just kind of go wherever you please in the Schengen area. So
sure. Yeah,
probably one of those two.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I think in the past, my answer would have been, I would just go everywhere and just, slum it and see as much as possible. But being married and thinking about like the implications of that on a shoestring budget, like traveling and staying in hostels and stuff like that, probably not going to go over so great with Erica. That's not her vibe. So I think honestly, I would live it up for a year in one country. And I mean, of the countries, I mean, a lot of places in Europe like ring a bell. But me and Erica both said, like, when we visited Barcelona, we were like, we would absolutely live here, like, given the opportunity. So Spain would be, I think, the vibe, and then catch some amazing football as well. So
yeah, it's a good
nice
one.
byproduct.
Yeah.
I'm interested, Christian, though, what you feel about this.
I'm not that into travel, honestly. Traveling to me is always like a lot of work. It's very stressful. I get very stressful when I'm in new places and stuff like that. So a vacation for me is really just go somewhere nice and just kind of hang out. Not really try anything too adventurous. We went to Cancun last year, and we stayed at like an all-inclusive resort, and that was just like perfect for me. Like, I'm not interested in going out and like discovering things and stuff like that. So I would just find somewhere really nice to hang, with all the money in the world, and just throw it at room service and bottle service and all that shit. Just to kind of relax. So yeah, that it's easy for me. And like I said, it would probably be somewhere very like tropical or chill. Like, I don't think I'd want to go. I think that like pictures of places that I see like Ireland and stuff like that are beautiful, but like I would much rather just be somewhere where I know that it's going to be nice and sunny and warm and the whole time that I'm there. So that's my vibe. But second question is another would you rather question. Would you rather win a couple of Open Cup matches and get eliminated from the playoffs 2 years in a row before the conference finals, or would you rather make the conference finals 2 years in a row?
Damn. I was waiting for it.
Oh my god,
Bro, savage.
To even address this.
Savage. That was
Right in.
Because I know some people who would prefer to win a couple of Open Cup matches and be happy with that.
Oh my god, yeah, it is. That is the definitely the vibe of our neighbors to the north. But I mean, Christian, as we dive into this match, obviously Locomotive get past New Mexico United in the Western Conference semis on penalties, 1-1 after extra time, and then 5-3 on pen, or 4-3 on pens.
5-3.
5-3 on pens. Whichever. But Christian, I mean, this match, in terms of the emotional investment and the amount of stress associated, have you recovered like physically from this game?
Not like until this morning. Honestly, I barely slept Saturday night, and I was pretty much running on adrenaline all the way until last night. Just because of the results and how it happened. Like, of course it had to happen like this, I feel like it was even more dramatic than the Tulsa game, because we're really like 90 seconds away from finishing it in regular time. But how it goes with New Mexico is, this kind of drama just always it's saved specially for these matchups. So
Austin, you were there in the stands. What was the feeling like throughout the 90 minutes, even with the obviously reduced capacity? What was the vibe in the stands like?
So, I mean, I had the awesome opportunity to go out to the Tulsa game as well on this one, and it kind of felt nice to finally be able to go to a match. And we're all separated, but it didn't feel not normal, if that makes sense. Like, as you guys know, I prefer, instead of being in the press box, I'd rather be down with Eighth Notch down there and celebrating. And it was still loud all the time. It didn't really feel any different. But I can tell you, though, that I never knew that something could suck worse than conceding a goal in the 90th minute in FIFA until it actually happens in real life. I kid you not, I sat there for like 15 minutes, even while the extra time was going on, just couldn't believe it.
There were a bunch of twists to this match, and I mean, to see it through, obviously Locomotive needed a pretty strong mentality, and Mark had some comments after the match about what it means for this team to make it to a second Western Conference final.
But they're winners. At the end of the day, they're winners. We're winners. We've built a winning culture here in 2 years. It's the second Western Conference final. Now, yes, this season's different. You know, it's hard to judge this season, but look, we're in a Western Conference final again, twice in 2 years. If you'd have offered any of us that, any of the players, any of the staff, any of the front office, we'd have snapped your hand off. And the guys have done it. It's on the players. They were superb these last couple of games. They've shown the heart and grit that's needed, and I'm so happy for them. I'm so proud of them, so happy for them.
Mikka, evident in Mark's answer there and talk about the mentality and obviously the pure physicality of playing two back-to-back extra time penalty shootout games. He talked about at the beginning of the season that it was a free hit. This team has really taken advantage of this free hit.
Absolutely. I think at the beginning of the season, and well, I guess at the beginning of the restart as well, it felt like the vibes coming out of the club were trying to temper our expectations when, all off season long, we were speaking of expectations being even higher, having made the Western Conference final in our first year. So it's I guess it's kind of like a masterstroke by the club and kind of telling us, hey, we're trying to, build for the future. It's kind of a weird one this year, COVID, this, that, and the third. And yet these guys, they just never say die, heads never drop. And here we are again. And in the most dramatic of circumstances worldwide and for us, for Locomotive, against our, against a rival who says we're not rivals, but whatever. And so
let them say that now. That's what, yeah, let them say that now.
They're right. We're not rivals, obviously. So yeah, it's incredible. I mean, Mark's spot on. They've built a winning culture in such a short time, and it's just incredible. And congratulations, obviously, to Mark and the staff and the guys, of course. There's been everything thrown at this team, short of, having to play every game on the road. I do sympathize with that on United's side, but I mean, COVID, our captain's ACL going, Omar's ACL going, Foxy out, departures, Bassetti, Foucault, just players from last season as well. And so it's just been Velasquez, of course. So yeah, there's been a lot of change and yet the culture remains, and that's how it should be. And so it's incredible achievement. Can't wait to see what we do next week against Phoenix. Christian,
with all the change around the club this offseason and all the turnover, we saw for the first time last week an unchanged lineup and enforced a lot due to injury. We saw another unchanged lineup today. This was the lineup, though, that got the team off to a strong start in this match. What did you make of that starting 11? And do you think the consistency's helping?
Yeah, I mean, it's the best 11 out there. I think with what we have. So I don't think that I don't even know what he would change it to at this point. So it just makes sense. I wasn't surprised seeing it or anything like that. And I do think that consistency is important, especially when you're playing teams that you don't know a lot about. I think that trying to do something different, kind of at the drop of a hat, and like kind of, I feel like if you change it too much, then you're really just guessing. And at this point, why risk a guess and just go with what has worked for you so far? So I think it is beneficial that they keep doing that. I don't imagine that we see anything different next week either.
Yeah, I mean, right now, based on the options that we have, I'd certainly say that, this is our best starting 11. We spoke about Nick Ross last week, but it's kind of clear fitness-wise that Mark is kind of determined to use him off the bench. Maybe there's a chance it changes, and we can get to that a little bit later. But Austin, we came out of the gates. I think we've seen a lot this season that Locomotive have started matches really strong, but we came out of the gates in this one pretty much on top of things and it kind of set the tone for how things would proceed for the next 90 plus 4 minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, just kind of going based off what Christian's saying, we really haven't seen the squad kind of change up at all, even in their play style the past couple of weeks. And, it's just something that if it's working, you got to keep doing with it. And you just have to trust Mark in these times that, he's been doing his scouting and knowing what works against these teams and what doesn't. And obviously, he's kind of had New Mexico's number the past couple times, so why change it up if he doesn't see something that they can do,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Mika, that is how the match started, essentially, was Locomotive really grabbed hold of the ball, and New Mexico were willing to concede possession for large periods of the first half, and then obviously kind of got hold of things once the situation changed.
Yeah, it seemed like they were kind of happy to let us have the ball. I do feel like they were trying to press. I don't know that they were that comfortable with all the possession that we were having, but I think it's probably just a consequence of the fatigue, honestly. I mean, I think they certainly found a second gear in the second half and in extra time. I think they were on top in those phases, but yeah, in the beginning, I think that we definitely set the tone. And just going back to the lineup, the Christmas tree obviously is bearing gifts again. So I don't see any immediate need to change any of that. I mean, I don't know. We did go to penalties again, so maybe there's something to be said about that. But yeah, we were dominant, and I think New Mexico will kind of regret their approach. I think whether that was tactical or just due to the fatigue.
Yeah, it was a strange one because they obviously, I mean, for everything being taken into consideration, they aren't experiencing the sort of injury problems that Locomotive are. And they've been able to start more or less like an unchanged lineup for a long time, and they have a decent amount of depth to come in as well. So I almost expected them to maybe take advantage of that a little bit and maybe try to get some fresh legs on against a Locomotive team that had played the 120 minutes against Tulsa. And obviously they played 120 against San Antonio as well, but they have some difference makers who haven't played as many minutes, like Romeo Parks, and we'll get to him later. But one player who didn't start actually a couple of the games against Locomotive, who did start this one, was Daniel Bruce. And Austin's memed him in the past quite stunningly with the shooting stars dive meme from earlier this year. But Christian, your boy Josue Aron Gomez was out here just terrorizing this man down the left flank. I made the joke during the game that he basically was told to become Omar and did. Gomez showing kind of a different side of his game, destroying fullbacks and making runs down the channel, like on the left wing.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. I still think that we're missing Omar. I think that there were a couple of passes that were hit a bit long for him. He doesn't have quite the pace to catch up. So
Sure.
He obviously can't fit quite into Omar's shoes, but I think he proved serviceable in, filling that role, while he has to. He definitely has the physicality for it, the toughness. I think he may lose some battles that Omar would definitely win still, but he doesn't go down easily. For that matter, I think that he makes those fullbacks earn any ball that they do get. So, we're lucky is all I can say to have that kind of easy replacement. And he did a great job of it. Again, no goals for him this game, unfortunately, but he's contributing another said before. And if that's what he has to do, then that's what he has to do. Sometimes it's not your year. I would say week. It turned in from it's not your week to it's not your month, and now it seems like it's just that kind of year. But still, he's still one of the best players on the team, and I say that in terms of skill and what he contributes.
Yeah, Austin, I mean, we kind of saw this interesting transformation for Gomez this week. We have seen him as a striker most frequently, but in this one, he completes 5 dribbles, which is like Omar or Dylan territory, the more skillful or the more assumed skillful players, and is the most fouled, and still creates 4 shots as well for himself. So we've seen all these complete performances from Gomez, and I mean, like Christian said, is he just unlucky that he hasn't found the back of the net more?
I'd maybe say after the Tulsa game he was unlucky, but what I'm assuming might have happened here is that Mark may have seen something and said that we needed that Omar-esque on the side there, and kind of told Aaron, like, hey, it might not be falling for you right now, but you can help us out here, kind of like what he did with Omar last season. So if anything, maybe it was just a necessity, but I don't know. I think he just needs to find the net at least once, and he'll get back to his form. But it was just what he was able to accomplish out there is something that we've been missing for a couple of matches now.
Mika, it makes me think about when we saw Leandro out wide in that match where he came on for Omar against United. And we had spoken about the fact that why don't we shift Gomez out there? And now, seriously, Loco looking pretty tactically, like having some tactical nous on.
Yeah. We're no inverting the pyramid or anything, but we did make that shout. I had a question though, Phil, because you were watching from home, obviously, and Austin's comment made me think about it. But looking at it in hindsight, yeah, it seems like okay, maybe Mark saw something in that matchup with Bruce that he could exploit. But I forgot who told me in the press box that on commentary, I think Duke had mentioned that, or someone had mentioned that New Mexico United lined up in a way that we weren't expecting necessarily. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah, they basically mentioned the fact that they lined up in a 3-4-3. I think we're used to them playing a 4-3-3, like more traditionally, I guess. But I don't know that we've never seen them play with a back 3 or a back 5, however you want to classify it.
Yeah.
I think we've seen that before from them.
We have, yeah. So that's why I was kind of like, I thought it was a little bit strange because I feel like we have seen them deploy like the wing backs.
Yeah.
As they should, because they have some decent ones. But yeah, just an aside that I thought of. So
no, and it was interesting too because I think we've seen teams mix it up. I think most notably this season, Colorado Springs has literally played a back 4 and a back 5. In order to do different things. And when they played a back 4, they congested the middle. When they played a back 5, they congested the wings. And New Mexico in this one, it was interesting though, because I feel like we didn't there were times where we weren't playing that effectively through the middle, even though they were playing a lighter midfield than they normally would.
Yeah, they were playing a lighter midfield, but they were kind of pressing in this like diamond shape where it was just man to man, like 3 guys on each of our attackers, and then 1 kind of in the middle shuffling. So
right,
it was effective in some ways, but yeah, I don't know that. I mean, Richie had a lot of cleaning up to do. Basically, like there was just a lot of loose balls in that area from both of our approaches, I guess. So
sure. Which led to a good moment in the future, but we will get to that. Josue Aron Gomez's like ability on the wing to cause problems actually led to a moment early on, Christian, in this one where Gomez gets past his man and cuts the ball back on the left wing, and Guzman for New Mexico United flies into a challenge. And this is very early on in the game. Not booked somehow, but that kind of set the tone for some of New Mexico's energy as well. A lot of like borderline fouls in this one.
Yeah, and that particular one, you know, this is speculation, but as a referee, you know, I imagine that it's that, and this isn't the correct mentality, but I think it's the mentality is that it's early. I don't want to send someone off. So it's that. And then also, like, I don't even think he got carded for that one either.
No.
Which is strange because they called a foul, right? Like they called a foul. So
yeah.
there's if you're not denying that it's a foul, then there's no way that it's not, punishable.
Right.
So it was just missed. They were missed calls all night from the center and both ARs. I think overall there were a good amount of missed calls. So that one just happened to be one of the more violent ones, I would say.
The most damning thing about this refereeing performance is the fact that Guzman actually not only wasn't booked for that challenge, he wasn't booked on the night, which, I mean, Austin, like, watching from the stands, even that perspective, you see Guzman was in and about, like, causing fouls all night.
Yeah, definitely. And I swear, like, these pro refs need to, like, I don't know if they need to go back to training or what, but they missed, like, there was so many chances for cards. And how many cards did you say they ended up with?
New Mexico United had 2 cards, Amando Moreno and Sam Hamilton. And Locomotive had 3 players booked, Eder Borelli, Josue Aron Gomez, and Memo. New Mexico United commit 21 fouls, El Paso just 11. So, yeah.
That's just ridiculous at any level.
They also got 2 cards to the bench.
Oh yeah, let's not forget that. That's where they saved themselves to them, right? But yeah, that's just ridiculous at any level.
You know, I couldn't tell with Guzman if he was being cynical or if he just doesn't know how to tackle, because he put in like 2 or 3 like scissor tackles that are just so dangerous, like Richarlison on Thiago energy and the Merseyside Derby dangerous. And just
trigger warning, Phil.
Trigger warning.
Yeah.
Trigger warning for all the Liverpool fans out there. But it happened a few times that made me think like this man's out of control. I mean, it was just dangerous. And, you know, for a club like ours, the last thing we need is another ACL, you know, another leg break or something like that. And I don't know how he made it through the match. He should have been off. And I've never understood the whole like, oh, it's, you know, not that Christian doesn't have a point. He absolutely does that. You know, refs think, oh, it's early, let me not give something. It's like,
right.
The rules apply from, you know, the first whistle to the last. So if you're endangering an opponent, I would argue that he should be off or at least be carded.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up the Richarlison challenge, but I think it's a good reference point for this because it's a similar type of situation where he thinks he can get to the ball. Like, I do think Guzman thinks he can win the ball. But as soon as he dives in with studs up, like, both, like, he's diving in 2-footed as well. Like,
Right.
It's the second he doesn't cleanly win the ball, it has to be at least a yellow. But, I mean, I would argue in this case, he should have been off because he only catches Gomez. He's nowhere near the ball. And no matter how early it is, he certainly should have been booked. But it should have been, I don't know. I thought it was clear as day. And honestly, the linesman should do the center referee a favor and help him out there because it happens right on the sideline.
She was hearing about it. Trust and believe.
What Locomotive need is a Joel Matip to angry walk towards the ref and intimidate. But New Mexico kind of had that energy all night, breaking up play and trying to frustrate. And luckily, on the half-hour mark, came the breakthrough. And Richie Ryan wins the ball back in midfield, finds Josue Aron Gomez with a nice little layoff. And then from there, Gomez finds Mahrez out wide, and Dylan scores an absolute peach.
My goodness, that goal will live long in the memory. That's for sure. Like you laid it out there. Richie has the vision that just no one has in that moment, finding that space. And then, the Dylan Mahrez goal is a screamer, but I actually argue that it is the only place he could put it. If you look at the replay from the goal camera, I mean, he's just got that window of space to postage stamp it. So it's the right decision as well as being a spectacular goal. Because, oftentimes spectacular goals are from speculative areas, but I really think that was the right decision for him to get it in that window of space between the two defenders. And it's just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Nothing that Mizell could do about that one, even though he's got insane reflexes, which we saw later. But what a way to open the scoring in this one.
Austin, you were behind the goal. What did it look like from your perspective, and what was the reaction like?
Looked like magic. He did that classic, just hit the R1 and just put it in there.
Yeah.
But the way that ball floated in was just amazing. And I think everybody took half a second to realize what had just happened because that's how spectacular it was. But I'd even argue that Richie's pass to Gomez was almost even better than the goal. That was just class right there to set that up. But it's just amazing.
It really was because in that moment, United are breaking. And Richie wins that tackle so cleanly and just shuts down everything they've got. But rather than be content to just win the ball back, I think, Christian, we've talked about it a lot. A couple of things about this goal that are paradigm breaking, I guess, for El Paso Locomotive is one, we won the ball back high up the field and actually turned it into a genuine goal scoring chance in a kind of quick manner. And two, we saw a player not afraid to take on a shot when it is the right decision. When he did have Gomez running in towards the center of the area and could have opted to pass, Dylan trusts himself to take the shot on.
And it goes in. I think that not to hate too much on Gomez, of course, but he's had some opportunities for similarly fantastic goals that just haven't hit the back of the net. But it goes in for him. But yeah, like you said, the fact that they turn this opportunity into something is what is most impressive for this team. Because for whatever reason, it's especially in moments where we could really use another goal, we still have that habit that I was hoping we'd gotten out of from last year of, getting on the attack and then, getting it right to the edge, between the center third and our attacking third, and then deciding to pull it back for whatever reason. And Mikka hears me, curse at it every single time when we're at the game. But yeah, because that's still has to be a part of the game plan that I don't understand, because everyone does it. Everyone on our team does it, but the fact that they don't hear just shows you what can happen when you decide to push forward. And
Christian, I mean, you're in the press dugout, for lack of a better term, in this game, with Mikka. The reaction of the press to the goal, was it professional or not?
I mean,
Christian was not professional. Just put that out there.
I wasn't. I told myself it's the last home game, like regardless of what happens. So why am I? I don't have to see these people for another year at least.
Well, I was just gonna say, if I know that crew at all, then Joe Rodriguez also was not professional when the goal went in.
No, everybody jumped. I mean, you can't not. Like, what's wrong with you if you don't celebrate that one?
Yeah, I mean, why do we have to be professional?
Oh, I mean,
United people press showed up in fucking kits and scarves. Like
they did, and masks. I always dress like subdued, but like they were.
So like, I'm gonna stand up and do a little fist pump. So
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I wasn't reserved. Obviously, I'm not going to do something that's going to get out or anything, but
sure.
I was not reserved in my emotions at all after that, especially that goal. It wasn't just a rocket from, the center of the box or anything. It was just a fantastic goal. So you have to celebrate it.
I absolutely love Duke Keith, and I know he listens, and he is absolutely a friend of the show. This is a goal where I really wish there was like a prominent Spanish language Locomotive announcer so we could have that like reaction.
That
like,
sounds
que golazo! Like, go, 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 go. Like, it's gotta be like, yeah, I don't know. I would just love to get maybe like Bravo Sky to call it again, just to give us like that Central American flair on it. But it is just a brilliant goal, and it's one that we're not used to scoring, right? Like that's the thing that I think was so kind of cathartic about it, is that it's a goal that we aren't accustomed to. We aren't used to scoring the curlers, the bangers, whatever, like goals of the season type caliber shots. And Dylan just said, like, hold this goal right now, like that. So yeah,
hold my fat contract.
Stop it.
So Locomotive took a lead into the hydration break, and we're gonna take a break ourselves real quick, and we'll be back for the rest of this match. So much more to talk about, and then we'll obviously be looking ahead to Phoenix as well, in the Western Conference Final. So stay tuned, and we'll be back with more Seriously Loco. Welcome back, everyone, to Seriously Loco. So in the second half, coming out from the second half, Christian, Mark said we needed a second, and we need a second goal to just wrap up this result, basically. The approach, though, in the second half from Locomotive seemed kind of conservative. It seemed like they were a little determined to hold on to this 1-0 lead. What did you make of Locomotive coming out of the locker room?
Yeah, I was getting kind of mixed signals, because, like you said, they were the play style didn't seem as aggressive as it was in the first half, but also like he wasn't making defensive substitutions, up until he did. And then he made all the defensive substitutions, which we'll get into. But yeah, and to me, that's what it felt like. It felt like he wanted another goal, which is why he had these guys still running out there. But for whatever reason, they maybe I guess it's kind of a fine line to walk, just because we know how New Mexico can beat you, which is just catching you slipping once, on the attack, and then they'll just counter the hell out of you and score a goal like that. So I think he was kind of towing a fine line between trying to get that second goal, but also not wanting to concede the tying goal.
Obviously, there's some risk associated with playing New Mexico in an attacking style, but Locomotive would have liked to add a second goal, and as time went on, and that 1-0 lead just stayed put, it must have added some layers of tension in the stadium.
No, yeah, and I mean, like Christian said, there just comes to a point where you have to switch it up. Like, you obviously, towards the beginning of the half, you want to push for that goal to get that cushion, but there just comes a point in the game where you realize you're not going to get it, and you just kind of have to sit back. And it was definitely getting a little frustrating being in the stands, and you definitely felt it around. But it's just one of those things where you just have to trust the team that they can hold off on it. And obviously, I think that goal New Mexico got was just, I'm not going to deny how great it was. It was just bad positioning by everybody. And, it's just one of those things where sometimes when you're up by 1-0 and you really need a result, you hate to go defensive, but sometimes you just have to. And sometimes when you do, what happened.
Yeah, I mean, Mikka in this one, Mark does go to the subs bench eventually as the second half wears on. And the subs that he does make kind of underline the fact that at one point we weren't creating a ton of clear-cut chances in the second half. And as we brought on the likes of Boehner and McKinney, like, it became clear that Mark was trying to see out this 1-0.
Yeah, as you predicted, Phil, so I blame you. I mean, it's at that point in the game when these, McKinney comes in on the 88th, Boehner in the 90th. I mean, like, it makes sense. I'm not gonna, draw clown makeup on Mark for that. It makes a lot of sense, but it backfires. For Romeo Parks' equalizer, there's just no pressure on the ball, really, like, whatsoever, that I can recall. And then the shot just goes through, like, if I remember correctly, like, just like a bunch of bodies, and there's really nothing that Logan can do about it. So, just added drama in the 95th minute or whatever that was. So yeah, I mean, usually Mark makes good substitutions, but this one just didn't work out. I don't think it was, I don't think he could foresee that, to be honest. It's just that this occasion, honestly, like, it is what it is.
It reminded me of Calvin's goal from last year. I think the first one he scored for the club, that just from like a couple of yards outside the box, that just kind of rolls past everyone, and somehow the keeper doesn't see it until, a second too late. Just one of those where it's like, how did that even go in?
Yeah, and Christian, I mean, it felt like a sucker punch. Like, there was something about that goal in particular that made it even more stunning, I guess, than just a 94th minute equalizer, 95th minute. It came literally from nothing. And they hadn't really created that much of danger up until that point. So it just felt like such a gut punch for Locomotive. Yeah,
and it's just every single piece of context around it is just, it's like, it feels like a sucker punch, but it also feels like it was like destined to happen. This high pressure match against New Mexico, they've been putting pressure on us for a lot of that second half. We'd have to hold out for a minute and a half longer, and then it just happens. So somehow it was like expected and a total shocker all at once.
I think about those couple of moments. I think particularly in the first half, a couple of goal line clearances from New Mexico, Mikka, that in that moment, you're just thinking back to all the points of the match where maybe it might have been different. And did you worry that with that goal coming as late as it did, that Locomotive's heads would drop and that potentially things would go differently in extra time?
You know, I will acknowledge that New Mexico, I think they had the better second half, and I think that they imposed themselves a lot in extra time. It really felt like they got a second wind. So they made the most of their goal in terms of galvanizing the team and all that. I think they were better. But I was worried naturally, but I always felt like we would get through. I didn't know how, but I felt like it was, I felt like it was in our favor on the night. I can't explain to you why I felt that way, but I knew walking into the swap that night that I'd be there for many hours. Let's put it that way. I brought my phone charger and my backup battery. Like I just felt like that was going to be a thing. So I don't know. I believe in this team, and they believe in themselves. And do I wish that I didn't have to put myself through this? That they didn't have to put us all through this, of course. But I just felt like we would make it through.
I think for me, an interesting thing that I just kind of that came to mind is that obviously for any team, when you have a playoff structure, we said it before, is it does require a certain amount of luck. Even for the best teams, it requires a certain amount of luck to win 4 games in a row. And as counterintuitive as it may seem, I think that the fact that this happens with 90 seconds left is lucky for us, because heads do drop, even if just momentarily, because you can't help it. You're pretty sure you have this one. And I think that, if this happens with 4 minutes left, that it's really easy for New Mexico to, especially a team like New Mexico, to jump on that and come back really quickly and get the second and put a dagger. So I think that this is one of those blessing in disguise kind of things, that it happens so close, because it allows the team to go to the bench. It allows Mark to get those heads up again, like we know he can, because he's a fantastic manager, and it allows them to kind of put things in perspective and realize that there's still 30 minutes left to play. So it's one of those things that is heartbreaking, but also kind of the way it had to have happened, because but other than us not letting them score, obviously, but if they had to score to tie it, I'm glad it was right at the end and not with, 3 or 4 minutes left.
That's a really good point, and something that I certainly at the moment, escapes you, I guess, in that moment of pure emotion. I was reminded of a few like sporting moments, I guess, through my life. But it turned out that this was more like Rajai Davis's home run in the 8th inning of Game 7 of the World Series between the Cubs and Indians. In that everything turned out fine. Even though I was absolutely sick to my stomach when the event actually happened. So, Austin, in extra time, the way we were set up and the subs and everything, we were hanging on in this one. But at the end of it, we actually create the best chance, and Saeed Robinson has a chance to win it in extra time for us.
Yeah, that was just... You just wish Saeed would have just put it left or right, and it would have been it. I don't know how you guys feel, but like, I feel like Mizell just throws himself for the pictures and the video to make the saves look a lot tougher than they really are. But if Saeed would have just hit it a little to the right or a little to the left, that would have been in. And other than that, I mean, it was just grit, just trying to get the penalties. But yeah, that was definitely heartbreaking when he couldn't put it in.
I don't know how you guys felt, but I absolutely thought it was like a moment of destiny for Saeed. Like I thought the bit player who, hadn't had a ton of playing time, I really thought that he might seize that moment. And Mizell unfortunately denied him.
Yeah, it was, and I didn't see it in real time when it happened from my vantage point. There's, photographers on the field, and it's on the other side of the field from where we are. So I had no idea what it looked like in real time, but watching the highlights, man, That's a heartbreaker.
And Moses McKinday denied an assist as well.
He needs some sort of number for this year, man. I really wanted him to get that. I'm glad he's getting out there though, because that means that these prize giveaways from the team will have some meaning. There's an actual game worn jersey.
Oh no!
Oh god!
Oh man! Mika, you got something to say? I know.
No, I think I want to agree with Austin there. Sometimes Mizell does make he's an incredible shot stopper, cat-like reflexes, but it does his economy of movement. Let's call it that. Like it is kind of strange. Like they look like more than they probably are, but I mean it is a good save at the end of the day for Saeed. But yeah, no, we just have to make it more dramatic, didn't we? And go to to penalties, which we've got Logan Ketterer, so I kind of fancied ourselves in that one. So,
I mean, really quick, going back to my Zelt thing about it, like the types of saves that you're making, like Logan makes them look so effortless. Like instead of throwing himself, he'll just take 2 steps to the right, catch it. But Mizell's out there throwing himself like 20 feet in the air, to stop something, and it's just
Cody Mizell does love like if there's a shot from distance that's very central to the goal, he will absolutely throw himself like straight up to tip it over the bar rather than just like holding his arms up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's actually won save of the week doing that.
Probably multiple times.
Yeah, probably every single one.
Oh my god.
But it does go to pens, and Mizell is at the center of everything that's going on. And Mika, I mean, you talk about his economy of movement, but in this case, like he should save 3 consecutive penalties.
Yeah, some of the penalties were not good. He just doesn't like react fast enough. Not everyone can be Logan Ketterer, I guess. Christian's calling for the air horn on that one. But there we go.
And maybe if he moves side to side more than forward off his line, he would have stopped it a little more too.
And that's another thing is he was off his line like twice, which
was he really? I couldn't see that from the
I sit right. I move right down the line for the PKs and on the follow us on Instagram, guys.
I saw you guys
on our Instagram. On our Instagram, you see right down the line that he takes about 2 steps forward before that ball is kicked.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. That's something that refs usually have a tendency to kind of be a little lenient on, as long as it's not. Blatantly
I don't know.
Unless it's the Women's World Cup.
Yeah,
there it is.
That was the only time. No, it's true though. Like, and it was funny because I tweeted about it at the time that I'm like, he's miles off his line. Like,
I'll have to go back and watch him.
He just wasn't even trying to stay home. And it's one of those where you think, I don't know, given the fact that you definitely don't need 2 linesmen to make sure the ball crosses the line. Like, you think one linesman would essentially be dedicated to making sure that the keeper stays on his line. Because obviously, that's the only like rule, I guess. I also noticed, interestingly, that Mizell did the whole like jump up and make the woodwork shake. Which is technically now not allowed within the rules of the game. So that was the laws of the game. So that's
really?
another, they actually make sure that the frame of the goal is not moving before the penalty is taken. So when they jump up and hit the crossbar, it's actually not allowed. And they have to wait for it to stop shaking before the penalty's taken.
Huh. Well, I guess it kind of makes sense. You could bang it off the bar and it might go out okay.
Yeah.
Wow, y'all weren't joking about him being off the line.
Yeah, he moves for sure. But the other keeper, Logan Ketterer, as we brought up, he ends up being the clutch one. And I mean, Austin, it's becoming kind of old hat at this point, but Logan and penalties is just a match made in heaven.
Yeah, and I mean, Mark said it himself in the press conference that he told the guys, just make every one of your shots. Logan will block at least one, and that's all we need. And Logan has shown us since last year that I think at this point he's got, like, in-game, not non-penalties, is what, at 40% save rate? Which is just crazy for a keeper. You know, and it's just, like Mark said, he'll block one, and that's what he does, and that's all he needs to do. I mean, he did it against Tulsa. One guy shot it over the bar, but he just needs to block one, and our guys, even though Mizell was guessing them right with the power that they had behind them, was just, it's just, I don't know if this team like has actually been practicing their penalty kicks, but if we get the pens, it's almost, as long as Logan's in there, we're winning it.
And to be fair, though, the penalty is not good.
It's bad.
Romeo Parks, he didn't look confident, to be honest, taking when he walked up to the spot, and it's at a good height for Logan. Obviously he still has to react, and that's the thing about Logan too, is he waits to see what you're gonna do. He's not as easily fooled as other keepers are. So my goodness, when people celebrated it like a goal when he saved that one, it was amazing.
And Christian, I'm sure you notice this too, but I love Logan's intensity in the reaction when he saves. Keepers don't often get to celebrate quite like forwards, scoring, but that was Logan's moment to relish.
No, absolutely, and he takes a tremendous amount of pride in his job, and I think he knows that he has the ability to do this, and when you've had kind of I wouldn't say a rough season, but I don't think he's saved a penalty in the regular season this year. Mm-hmm. I think he's saved 2, and they've both been in the penalties in overtime. So if you're saving, if you're waiting for the right opportunity to do it, this is it. So the fact that, he is coming through at this very important time, and the fact that it's kind of a bounce back game for him, considering what happened last week too, to be able to do that and to really save your team 2 weeks in a row, especially when you were almost out last week, pretty much based solely on his errors. I think he's excited, and he knows that he's doing exactly what he gets paid to do here, and then some.
The last penalty taker for Locomotive is Mikka, one of the players that we had tipped towards the beginning of the season as a big difference maker. I don't know that he's had the impact in the team that we thought he might, Distel Zola, but to step up as the final penalty taker and take it with such confidence, and he makes absolutely no mistake. And then straight over to Eighth Notch to jump in the net and celebrate in style.
Loved that, Selly. I'm so pleased for Distel Zola to make a difference in the postseason and in the way that he did. It was a really, really well struck penalty, honestly. And I think that's fair, Phil. I think he hasn't had the impact that we perhaps envisioned. I think we envisioned him being kind of a mainstay in that midfield, but there are a lot of the usual suspects there. And then Brian Rebellon's transition into midfield is very much not an experiment, but something that looks like it'll be a fixture for our side. But Distel seems like a great guy, around the locker room, and in this clutch moment, he's able to punch our ticket to his second straight conference final. So pleased for him. I hope he's pleased for himself. And he just seems like a really good guy to have in the squad. And I even though he hasn't had the impact that we thought he might, I would not be opposed at all to him staying, honestly.
he's part of that francophone core that we seem to have with him and Chiro, and then obviously the we with Alexi before we had kind of a French speaking core of the team, but
absolutely
no, Distel definitely has the personality around the side that seems to just kind of tie people together, and certainly has a lot of. I should mention Mishak as well in the francophone. I guess like the
right
because of the Haitian side as well. But Austin.
But I think.
Oh, go ahead, Christian.
Sorry. I was going to say just another observation that I've had about over our 2 games that have gone into penalties is that I think it's interesting. Obviously, in this case because of subs, but regardless, we don't have our like goal scorers taking penalties. Mm-hmm. Leandro didn't take a penalty in the last 2 weeks. Gomez didn't take a penalty. He was subbed out on both occasions, but Dylan hasn't taken a penalty in either 2 weeks. So I just think that that's really interesting too. It's not like the usual suspects,
sure,
that are coming through clutch in these opportunities where you need to finish. So I think that that's kind of an interesting little turn too, and it makes me just wonder, like, well, actually, I don't know what I was going to say Omar too, but I don't know if I want Omar taking a penalty for.
I was nervous about Richie's because of the way that he took it last time.
Right.
Where it was like right in the corner, but then he slotted it home, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But everyone else I was fine with.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have Richie in there just because he's probably, just due to his like tenure, I would assume that he's probably the most composed out of anyone, the least likely to get in his head about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to come down to the experience, I think.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, we have him like in terms of the penalty takers, Borelli, takes the first one, which Eder, like we didn't mention him up to this point, but Eder has a pretty solid game as well in this one, for maybe not as influential as he's been recently, but certainly has a good game. Nick Ross, Richie Ryan, Saeed, who scored the winner and took the 4th penalty against Tulsa, and then Distel the 5th. So, I mean, maybe Distel was next in line in the in the shootout with Tulsa, and didn't get his chance, but in this one slots it home after the save by Logan off of Romeo Parks. So Locomotive find a way 5-3 on penalties and find their way back into the Western Conference Finals. But on their way, obviously, they had to deal with a little bit of shithousery. And I think we spoke about our nomination already, but well, who wants to speak on the Shithouse 11 and who they think belongs?
Do we have a supporters group? I want to nominate every single member of the curse.
Everyone who follows New Mexico United on Twitter.
Damn.
Oh,
no,
man.
special shout out or shame out, I don't know, to Las Cruces fans of New Mexico United. Y'all are a special breed of just wrong. Like, you've got a winning team 45 minutes down the road from you, and y'all support United. New Mexico ain't United. Come on. Albuquerque and Las Cruces have nothing in common, like, other than sharing a state. But culturally, like, Las Cruces is part of our metro area. Like, why are you? I don't get it. I don't. Everyone at my work, I work in Las Cruces, for those who don't know, and everyone in my workplace is a Locomotive fan, thankfully. But, like, I've seen some Las Cruces United fans on Twitter just talking a bunch, and that's just, I don't get that, but whatever.
I mean, I think we all know why, ultimately.
Watch your profanity.
No, but on to the actual, like, on pitch shithouse 11. I mean, you cannot look past Guzman for some of these leg breakers he tried to pull, and the fact that he managed to stay on the pitch. I mean, he definitely advanced his side's interest. I'm glad that they are finally getting to go home, but they, yeah, he's the one. I think.
We did this. I think we did this last year for. I forget who it was for Phoenix, but I just also, if Moreno isn't up there, I'd just like to also submit him for the bleach tips. The frosted tips. I think
do you think this is high school baseball playoff time?
Yeah, for real.
I think it was Baquero.
Stanley Cup playoffs.
There were 2 on Phoenix last year.
There were.
Baquero, and I don't remember who else that got in on their frosted tips.
Aguinaga, if I remember correctly.
Goodness.
Armando Moreno is in the Shithouse 11 already due to his shithouse performance the last time out. And he actually, beyond the hair, is booked in this game and like was, doing that sort of thing all game again, whether it's asking for cards or kicking players or whatever. He just really has that shithouse forward vibe about him.
Yeah, definitely. Do we have like a full roster yet, Phil? Or
I don't know.
Who are we scouting? Who are we scouting from Phoenix?
I mean, there's always. Gosh, I mean, Phoenix is like taking on full on villain status, like let alone shithouse.
Right.
But right now. And this is going to sound funny, like across. So our Shithouse 11 as it is at the moment, Omar Salgado, which seems messed up now. Daniel Bruce for his dive. Solomon Asante. Argueta from Colorado Springs. Drew Becky. Mitch Tainer. Luis Solignac, both from San Antonio. David Ochoa from Real Monarchs and Armando Moreno.
Some people are going to have to play out of position, but whatever.
Has Ochoa signed his lifelong contract yet for the shithouse?
Oh yeah, no. I think the second he started a full on fight at the end of the Western Conference Finals last year, he was cemented fully in that team.
Build him a statue outside the stadium.
So yeah, I think Juan Guzman finds his way into the Shithouse 11. Congratulations, Juan, on the accomplishment and somehow staying on the field for the duration until you were subbed off. So we are going to talk Phoenix here in a little bit. Oh, Christian's got something real quick before we go.
Before we move on to Phoenix, I just have to see if we can petition to get the New Mexico United slogan changed. Somos Unidos was nice. It was heartfelt. I appreciate it, but I think it's time to change it to Son Eliminados.
Oh.
I never liked Somos Unidos. Only because their Somos Unidos flag has the name of a couple towns spelled wrong. So how united can you really be? But
Alamogordo.
Son Eliminados. Yeah, I love it.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, we've got a big game coming up this weekend, which might be understatement of the year. So we're going to be back in a second to talk all things Western Conference Final and Phoenix Rising. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Seriously Loco. Well, guys, we've got this small matter of the Western Conference Final against Phoenix Rising. And Christian, I mean, first things first, obviously there's a lot of different circumstances surrounding this meeting between Locomotive and Phoenix. But for a long time, New Mexico United represented a hurdle that we had like kind of struggled to clear in terms of proving that we belong at this kind of top end of USLs, at least in the West. Phoenix now really representing that one team that has kind of held it over us.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that they're the only team in the conference that we haven't actually beat yet. We got a win over Monarchs this year. That I think it was Monarchs, New Mexico, and Phoenix going into this year that we didn't have a win over. Oh, and San Antonio actually. So we punched a lot of those spaces on our card this year. So Phoenix is the only one left, I think, and the games haven't been particularly close as far as the scoreboard goes. They've been pretty decisive Phoenix wins. I think 2 of them we've lost by 2. We lost one of them by 1. The second meeting last year, but they've all had kind of, as far as being a Locomotive fan, they've all kind of had like an asterisk on them. So I think going into this one, you can kind of feel like, especially in the form that we've been on, you feel like anything is possible because, like I said, there's been something in every game that as a Locomotive fan, you probably feel is the reason why we didn't win that particular game. And so, like I said earlier, every playoff run has an element of luck to it. And, either your lucky streak continues or it runs out.
And for Reno 1868, they were one of the best offensive teams in the West. But in this game against Phoenix, decided to play in kind of a wide open manner. And Mikka, I mean, this stat line, if I read this to you, like, this type of match seems so far from what Locomotive try to accomplish in a game. Reno versus Phoenix in Reno. So I'll read for each stat, Reno's number and Phoenix's number, and just like highlight the craziness. Shots 26 to 31. Shots on target 10 to 8. Possession 56% to 44%. Fouls 24 to 21. 5 yellows to 4 yellows. 15 corners to 10 corners. This was a game that was played literally end line to end line, and if you were in between, you were getting fouled.
I think the youth call that doing the most. That's what that sounds like. They were just doing the most.
It ends 2-2. Corey Herzog scores in the 6th minute. Kevin Partita adds a second in the 40th for Reno and kind of gives them daylight. But then in typical Phoenix fashion, Kevon Lambert scores in stoppage time at the end of the first half, and Solomon Asante scores the second. Ends 2-2, goes all the way through extra time, and Phoenix ended up winning 5-4 on penalties. But this match, like, compared to the United Locomotive game, which seemed kind of controlled in a lot of ways, this game is just chaos.
This is just like, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it now after you've read through it just to make sure you're not like capping out here. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is absolutely not a game that you'd find Locomotive in, hopefully. Do we think that Reno kind of bottled it here, though? Because, I mean, Phoenix create an incredible amount of chances and never really gave up, but they had a 2-0 lead going into halftime. Like, it's not good.
Yeah,
Give that
I didn't
up.
watch. Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't watch the game, but I have to assume that they took their foot off the gas in the second half.
Austin, given the nature of this kind of chaotic game that Phoenix played against Reno, and then the way that Locomotive were actually able to, despite the 3-1 scoreline, obviously, the last time that Locomotive were at Phoenix at Casino Arizona Field, they absolutely dominated in all areas of the game, minus Junior Fleming scored a couple of bangers, and we walk away with the loss. But that was one of our best performances of the season. So what do you make of Phoenix? If Phoenix try to take on this kind of chaotic vibe, do you think Locomotive will be able to handle that?
I think so. And even that, I think that was just a circumstantial, chaotic type deal with Reno, just with both teams playing that way. And it seems like teams, even if they play very chaotic or very attacking, seem to slow down against El Paso. So it's going to be interesting. And I mean, like, I'm a little optimistic going into this game, especially like how Christian said, we've beaten every opponent this year that we haven't beaten yet, and Phoenix is the last one needed, so it's going to be definitely exciting.
And they won't have, I assume they won't have Eric Dick to save them this time.
Lubin actually does have a howler in this game, and I think it's worth bringing up. In the game against Reno, he passes the ball directly to Corey Herzog for the opener.
Yeah, but then I think did he save a penalty though? Because I think there was a bunch of like redemption arc.
Yeah, he does save he Loganed is what you're saying.
yes. Yeah, I saw a lot about that be made about that by Phoenix fans on Twitter and whatever, is that he redeemed himself. So,
well, and there's certainly no motivation for Phoenix fans to maybe distract from other things that are going on around.
Yeah, they've had a really low key season, like just totally out of the limelight. It's crazy.
Yeah, just quietly going about their business.
Press, nothing.
The nature of Christian, like obviously with both teams having played 120 minutes, Phoenix hugely talented. Lot of turmoil going on at the moment, missing a key player. Their manager is on administrative leave. Do you count any of those things as you head into this matchup with both teams maybe feeling it a little bit in their legs right now? Do you give any edge to Locomotive due to some of what's going on around Phoenix?
I don't think so. I mean, they've managed to win 2 playoff games at this point, so obviously they're up to the task mentally. They've shown that even if they do have to go into PKs, they came back from 2-0 down, without Junior Fleming's there, so they can obviously still attack the way that they need to. They obviously keep their heads about them enough to come back from a 2-goal deficit without their manager. So. I don't think that you can discount them at all because of that going into this game. I think you have to assume that it's business as usual when it comes to facing Phoenix.
And Christian, you often have some kind of thought or insight before that I haven't thought of, maybe some angle of this matchup. So I'm interested what your key is or what you're thinking about going into this matchup against Phoenix. Whether, from Phoenix's, the way Phoenix will set up against us, or whether you think there's some key to Locomotive's approach.
I think it'll be interesting to see Yuma as a center back in this one. I think it'll be interesting to see how he defends, Asante. We know Asante likes to get into the box, and because of his that kind of wily nature that he has the ability to draw penalties. With the way Yuma plays as a midfielder, without having seen him play as a center back at all this season, that would worry me. He has that aggressive nature to him, that tendency to kind of be a little bit reckless, which a player like Asante will wholly take advantage of. But we've seen him be very composed as a center back. So I think that'll be interesting to see how that matchup works. I think that's one to look at.
Yeah, the Yuma, I think that's the one big variable as well from the last time that we faced off against them. I mean, Mikka, most prominently, your favorite Locomotive defender featured in that game at Casino Arizona and was perhaps a bit at fault for a couple of the goals that were scored by Phoenix. And so do you think with this newfound partnership of Mishak and Yuma, assuming that they are available for this one, do you think we see any improved defensive outcomes?
Yeah. I think you can't. I mean, I don't not to rail on Drew here. I think it's a team game at the end of the day. But yeah, I expect it to be a bit more controlled at the back. Obviously, Mishak and Yuma, we extol their virtues on the ball. They're both very good passers, and I don't worry about it too much. I feel better about this one than I did on August 1st, So I think it is a little bit, it's something to think about that we have not lost since Phoenix. And now we have a chance to both put that right and finally beat this boogeyman, I guess you could say, and also advance to a final and play for a trophy. So, considering the very low key season Phoenix have had, for some reason, everyone wants Locomotive to win. So everyone's rooting for us. So hopefully we can take all that good energy and do something here in Arizona next week.
I think another thing, I was looking at the lineup from the last match, is that it'll be interesting. Obviously Phoenix has the capability to watch video and all that, but looking at the lineup, there are 5 people that were in that lineup that either definitely won't be in the match or probably start. That being Nick Ross, who from what we've seen probably won't start. Omar will not be there. Drew will not. Well, conceivably won't be there. Chiro's not going to be there, and Foxy's not going to be there. So it's a very different look than what they had. We didn't have Maka at that point. We didn't have Borelli or Carijo. So I think it's a very different team that showed up in Phoenix, 2 months ago, as opposed to what we're going to see on Saturday. So it's almost impossible to predict, I would say.
It is. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Wait, did you say 2 months? This game feels like it took place like eons ago.
It was literally on August 1st.
Yeah, like 2 months and 18 days.
It literally feels like ages. I'm not even joking. This might as well have taken place in like 2015. I'm fascinated by this game. Obviously, it's the Western Conference Final. Like, you don't have to spend much to get up for this one. But this is such a fascinating matchup given the form of both teams. I think a lot of people, all of the off the field stuff aside, or on the field in the case of Junior Fleming's, but with all of that kind of taken out of the picture, Phoenix's form had not been that great coming into the playoffs, like not compared to obviously where they were last year with a 20-game winning streak or anything like that. And Locomotive have a chance to make it 14 unbeaten. Is that accurate?
That's insane.
This is uncharted territory, obviously. And along with Louisville City, the longest, winning streaks in American soccer period, shared between Locomotive and Louisville City. So
is that active or like
current? Yeah, like current active winning streak, or not winning streak, unbeaten streaks.
Oh yeah, because Phoenix had like 29 last year. So.
That's right.
And they had 20 wins in a row. Not just unbeaten, unfortunately. But anyways,
I got curious about that, and I was looking back at our unbeaten streak, and there's only like 3 draws in there.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a hell of a job to actually come away with like what we've done. And not to mention, obviously in the playoffs, it's slightly different, I guess, because you can't draw. We've technically drawn in regulation, I guess. But
2 in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. But it obviously takes a kind of a different level to see out the win. But we do have the small matter as we close things out here tonight of score predictions. And Christian, I'll leave it to you to update us where we're at and give us a chance to guess how this is going to play out between Locomotive and Phoenix.
Yeah, it's getting more real and more real every week that, eventually it has to be the last week, whether it's this week or next week, God willing. It has to be the last week some point.
Yeah.
So last week was interesting because everyone picked a Locomotive win. However, I did predict that we would go into a penalty shootout with a 1-1 scoreline.
Yeah.
So if I remember what we discussed correctly, I guess that gives me the result and the score type of point level. So I came away with 3 this week. Everyone else came away with 1. No one predicted a Mahrez goal. So that actually does throws an interesting little wrench into the standings because Austin's still in the lead with 23. Austin's still in the lead with 23. Mikka in second with 17. Phil has 16. So 1 point behind Mikka. But also Christian coming up clutch also has 16.
Oh.
So second place is in play for all 3 of us at this point.
It just got interesting.
Austin's, what's the word I'm looking for? And short of, Austin having a meltdown and one of us having pretty much perfect score for the next 2 weeks, I think Austin has pretty much secured the win, but we won't be rolling out the trophy yet. But second place is still very much in play.
Well, in that case, I mean, given that I guess you've moved into a tie, in terms of the order of prediction, what's the I think we'll stick we could stick with you first and see how it goes.
Okay. So I kind of don't want to go first just because I already know what my prediction is going into the episode. And I think it's been a great year, but I think that this is the end of the road for us. Not because we can't beat them, but just, like I said, you either keep getting lucky or you don't. And we've had a hell of a season, but I just think that it's just going to end this weekend and it's going to be tough. But I think that and the other thing is that I'm being super cynical and pessimistic, but I'm predicting an 0-2 loss.
Dang. I think that might be one of the first losses ever predicted on Seriously Loco, but I totally get the prediction. Like
I actually picked a 1-0 loss last time we played Phoenix.
Oh, that's right. Gosh, yeah. So I think the legs are where I'm concerned because Mark even said it in the post-match press conference, but we've battled, we've fought, but we've also played 240 minutes in the last 2 weeks. And that's after kind of a shortened season and, weird recovery and a bunch of injuries. And despite all that, maybe this is completely stupid and maybe we will get kind of like put back in our place, I guess, by Phoenix, which on paper certainly the stronger team, but something about this year and something about the way that we've overcome like each of these hurdles just gives me hope that there is a way through. And I think, I don't know. I don't think we could survive extra time against Phoenix. So a win is going to come in regular time. It almost has to. And I'm going to say a 2-1 win for Locomotive against steep odds. But I'll say Gomez's curse ends and maybe Lubin gets generous again and puts one right at his feet for him to slot home. We'll see. But yeah, I think Josue scores, and I think it's just purely, I guess based almost purely on karma. But I just feel like we find a way through to the final, and kind of simultaneously getting the monkey of Phoenix and the Western Conference final of last year off our back.
Mika?
I told myself that I would be happy with making it here because it's at least as far as we made it last season. But I mean, naturally, you start to think, well, wait a minute, we could do more. We could get more. And arguably, I think our squad is stronger than it was last season in a lot of ways. We've lost some pieces too, but replaced very well, I think. And I don't know. I think maybe I'm going to predict a win because I want it to happen, not because I think it's going to. So I'm going to go with 2-1. I'm going to give Mahrez the shout this week. Maybe he can do another madness for us. And then we go to a final. And I just feel like we got to win for the culture. Like everyone wants to see Phoenix, cast aside. So, and as we learned today, if they go through, they host the final. So, everyone disliked that.
Yeah. Let's deny them that opportunity. And I mean, the chance, if we could get the chance to play in Louisville City's nice new stadium, or even Tampa with the renovations they've made to their baseball stadium.
That would be a lot of fun.
Pretty fun, yeah.
Cough, Mountain Star.
For real though.
Ostradamus.
Tell us what's going to happen, my lord.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about how he showed up on the big screen. I said it was like a good sign.
I didn't even know I came up until you sent the picture.
That's so funny.
Okay, so hear me out. I know that we have gone through, 240 minutes these past two games. But at the same time, Phoenix is coming off an extra time game as well. With everything Reno's throwing at them. And we know that there's absolutely no way we can stop Phoenix attack. All we can hope for is that, we score more than them. And I think it's going to be a 3-2 in extra time. I just had this in my head too.
My heart is scared.
Hold on. I had it. I'm trying to remember who I had scoring too. I'm completely blanking.
He's trying to have a vision.
He's trying to look into the camera like they did on That's So Raven.
That's so Austin.
That's so Austin.
Nick Ross is going to get the winner in extra time.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
That would be amazing. Caledonian Prince to just seal it.
Oh
if it happens, Austin's about to predict a finals victory with Chiro coming off the bench to shoot a PK, to kick the winning PK.
It'll be like the foosball people with the crutches, just swings his legs.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Oh my god. Well, I mean, regardless, guys, we're in for a hell of a match, and certainly the team's going to be up for it, whether or not the season ends this weekend. I think there's been a certain amount of belief each week that we would come back and be talking about a victory, and despite the strength of this Phoenix team, I just can't discount what Locomotive are bringing. So hopefully everyone listening to this, you'll be treated to another Seriously Loco previewing a final this time next week. Almost crazy to think about, but it is a huge matchup on Saturday. And we'll obviously be offering all the reaction and everything. I think, guys, I haven't really posited this, and maybe this is a chance too, but I think a watch party might be maybe in store and sort of a watch along, if you will, like not commentary or anything like that, but just jump in the Zoom and then kind of stream it and have people in the chat and just kind of interact with Loco fans the whole night. I think that could be pretty cool.
I'm up for it. I also want to say, I also want to say, I'm thinking back to this point last year. I don't know if everyone feels this way, but I really liked like a midday game. I liked that vibe a lot. I was hoping we would get that again this year, but we're getting it even later than usual because Phoenix has fuck daylight savings.
That is true. They're like, we don't need that agricultural shit.
So not only are we not getting the afternoon game, we're going to have to stay up till fucking like 11 o'clock.
Oh my God. Hold on. Because wait a minute. I need to look at this being in Eastern time.
Oh yeah. You're going to get that at 10:30 for
It's
Phil.
at 10:30 kickoff. Oh my God. If it goes into extra time, it'll be 1 a.m. by the time it's over. I didn't even get to sleep. Like
Get that nap in now, Phil.
I slept like 3 hours after the New Mexico game. And that kicked off at 9:30. Oh my God. And yeah. The other crazy, well, anyways, yeah, there's a lot. Jesus Christ. Thanks a lot, Arizona. Anyways, on that note, if you guys have enjoyed this episode, you could please subscribe and leave reviews and follow on all the various platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all them, if you would. And you can follow us on social at Seriously Loco on Twitter or at Seriously_Loco on Instagram. Christian got some seriously cool stuff on the Instagram this week from the Western Conference semifinal game against New Mexico. So definitely check that out. And this week, obviously, we'll be biding our time till the weekend. But I'm sure we'll all be a bundle of nerves going into that Phoenix game, despite the fact it'll be well after my bedtime. And we will be hanging in there on every moment, and it should be just hopefully an amazing celebration again. And hopefully we'll be back next week talking about a historic victory. But in the meantime, everyone, stay loco.